Chalmette Battlefield, site of the Battle of New Orleans, War of 1812. And it's crazy, but the gate is 1815 address, I guess, you know. So this is one of the placards of the battlefield. You could pause the video. All right, how's it going, man?
Good. How you doing?
Good, brother, doing good. And this is a vast expanse. And it's gonna be windy because we don't have a bluff. British attacked the American rampart during their reconnaissance in force on December 28. They almost succeeded in outflanking the rampart and capturing the American positions at the end of this line. The Americans responded by extending the rampart further into the cypress swamp. This new section was defended by Kentucky militia, General John Coffey's Tennessee militia, and Captain Pierre Jugant, leading a group of Choctaw Indians. On January 8th, the British concentrated their main attack here. According to tradition, Lieutenant Samuel Spots of the Artillery Corps gave the order at Battery 7 to fire the battle's first shot. This engraving from about 1892 portrays the determination of the volunteer troops at the American ramparts, Swamp Inn. So you can pause it and check it out. And these are some old cannons, those blue things down yonder. I might leave the wind in this video because I read the placards, but I don't know. I got to figure that part out. Sorry it's a windy day, but I can't do nothing about what God created. I'm glad you got ears to hear it. So this is what a battle was for. The cannons are pointed, and the rampart they built looks like they had railroad down there. That could be steel, I don't really know. And I'd imagine some of those pickets are really old. And I don't know if they're, I doubt they would be original pickets, but you could tell they were commercial lumber, or maybe they were replicas just made in a tradition that they would have been made in so long ago. This big monument. It's amazing how they don't have no trees on that battlefield, you know. I wonder why. The British flag is in the back, so I guess that's where the British were going to ride. Blood and that's all. Hey, look at a little mini cannon. How you like that? I could use one of them. Battle 4. Now I don't know about this, but I'm flanking myself. You know? That's a no-no, huh? Battle 4 boasted the rampart's largest gun, a 32-pound naval cannon manned by sailors from the USS Carolina, which had been sunk by British fire on December 27, 1814, during the Battle of New Orleans. The big gun tore gaping holes in the ranks of the advancing 93rd Sutherland Highlanders Regiment of Foot. To the left, the American line was defeated by the 44th U.S. Infantry and by militia from Daquan 2nd Free Colored Battalion. Daquan, how you like that? Men who had immigrated from Saint Dominique because of the Haitian Revolution. The first free colored battalion, positioned to the right, was descended from the city's colonial Spanish colored militias. Let me read that again because I didn't do it justice with my foolishness. Battery 4 boasted the rampart's largest gun, a 32-pound naval cannon manned by sailors from the USS Carolina, which had been sunk by British fire on December 27, 1814. During the Battle of New Orleans, the big gun tore gaping holes in the ranks of the advancing 93rd Sutherland Highlanders Regiment of Foot. To the left, the American line was defended by the 44th U.S. Infantry and by militia from Daquan's 2nd Free Colored Battalion. Men who had immigrated from Saint Dominique because of the Haitian Revolution. The 1st Free Colored Battalion, positioned to the right, was descended from the city's colonial Spanish colored militias. This engraving from about 1892 shows the diversity of Jackson's troops through the rampart. It's inaccurately drawn as a curving wall of cotton bales. These are the cotton bales, curved, inaccurately drawn. And look at the big old mammoth of a 32-pounder. Yeah. All right, we'll go a little further. Some more cannons over yonder. And since it's one way, we're going to honor that. A lot of blood in the soil out here. Park ranger, how you like that? Chalmette Battlefield and National Cemetery Visitor Center. I am not going to go in there because I'm gonna drive through that little area. Chalmette Monument. The construction of a monument honoring Andrew Jackson and his troops was the first step in recognizing the importance of the battlefield and saving it for future generations. In 1852, the Louisiana legislature appropriated funds to purchase land at the battlefield and build a monument there. The project was plagued with funding problems for decades and was finally completed in 1908. Maintenance was turned over to the Chalmette chapter, United States Daughters of 1812. In 1939, Chalmette National Historical Park was created, and the site became part of the National Park Service. This photo from around 1900 shows the partially built monument. Civil War soldiers wrote home about camping in its shadows. Chalmette Monument is about 100 feet tall. When Alfred Rudolph Wald drew the unfinished monument in 1871, plans for a finished height of nearly 150 feet. But an engineer's test around 1900 discovered that the foundation could not support such a structure's weight. Welcome to the swamp. I don't know if you could walk up there, but let me see if I could get this placard. And this looks like marble steps, actually. It's massive, man. And I guess they have steps going all the way up to the top because you can see the little islets or windows. I try to read this one. Chalmette Monument. The monument was erected by the state of Louisiana and the United States to commemorate the memorial victory won here by General Andrew Jackson and the men under his command in the Battle of New Orleans, January 8th, 1815. The cornerstone was laid on January 8th, 1840. Construction of the monument began in 1855 and was carried to a height of 55 feet with funds provided by the state of Louisiana. In 1908, the monument was completed with funds provided by Congress. In 1894, the state placed the monument and grounds under the custody of the United States Daughters of 1776 through 1812, who cared for the area until 1929 when the War Department assumed responsibility. The United States Daughters of 1776 to 1812 thus had continuous custody of the monument and grounds for 35 years, encompassing periods of both state and federal ownership, the state having ceded title to the United States in 1907. In 1933, the monument and grounds were transferred to the Department of the Interior, and on August 10, 1939, Chalmette National Historical Park was established. This placard, placed by the Chalmette chapter, United States Daughters of 1812, October 19, 1947. How you like that? So I don't know. How you like that? Now I'm gonna ride through the grounds. I'm gonna ride through the grounds of the battlefield on that road. And the battlefield self-guided driving tour. I wonder how many miles this is. 15 is the speed limit. Well, they don't have to worry about that right now, the way these legs have been running. Look at the nice house in the back. So I don't know if that was, I don't know what the house, I don't know if that's a plantation house, but according to that placard I read earlier, they didn't make it past the Battle of New Orleans. But this is where, I don't know how many men have died on this battlefield, but this is crazy, man. I really don't know how to feel about it, you know? From the standpoint of, in 2025, you know, February 2025. The 93rd oblique. As the main attack on the swamp end of the American line began to falter, British Commander Sir Edward Pakenham ordered Major General John Keane to redirect British forces from the River Road assault to help. Nearly 1,000 soldiers of the 93rd Sutherland Highlanders Regiment, led by Lieutenant Colonel Robert Dale, moved diagonally across the battlefield. It was a desperate maneuver, leaving the 93rd exposed to heavy fire. When confusion among the advancing British troops forced the 93rd to halt in front of the American line, cannonballs and grape shot rained down, wounding Keane and killing over half the regiment's men, including Dale. Although nearly every detail in this 1910 E. Percy Morgan painting is historically inaccurate, it does dramatize the courage and discipline required for the 93rd's oblique diagonal march across the battlefield. Let me read that top address again. As the main attack on the swamp end of the American line began to falter, British Commander Sir Edward Pakenham ordered Major General John Keane to redirect British forces from the River Road assault to help. Nearly 1,000 soldiers of the 93rd Southern... I'm gonna try this one more time, man. I think I need to eat. As the main attack on the swamp end of the American line began to falter, British Commander Sir Edward Pakenham ordered Major General John Keane to redirect British forces from the River Road assault to help. Nearly 1,000 soldiers of the 93rd Sutherland Highlanders Regiment, led by Lieutenant Colonel Robert Dale, moved diagonally across the battlefield. It was a desperate maneuver, leaving the 93rd exposed to heavy fire. When confusion among the advancing British troops forced the 93rd to halt in front of the American line, cannonballs and grape shot rained down, wounding Keane and killing over half the regiment's men, including Dale. How you like that? I don't. Man. I think I had enough. I really do. Depressing, man. It's really depressing. Gotta read this one though. Faisan-Deville. Jean-Pierre Faisan, a free man of color and New Orleans grocer, inherited land within the battlefield in 1857. After the Civil War, he divided it and sold it to freed slaves from local plantations. Eventually, the community grew to more than 200 people and became known as Faisanville. The National Park Service bought the land in 1966 after long contentious. Let me start again. I can't read right for some reason. Jean-Pierre Faisan, a free man of color and New Orleanian grocer, inherited land within the battlefield in 1857. After the Civil War, he divided it and sold it to freed slaves from local plantations. Eventually, the community grew to more than 200 people and became known as Faisanville. The National Park Service bought the land, and in 1966, after long contentious negotiations, many residents relocated to the New Orleans 9th Ward, but kept the Faisanville community alive through regular communication and social events. Today, the community bonds built in Faisanville remain strong among its former residents and their descendants. Faisanville was located in the center of the battlefield area in this circa 1960 photo. Chalmette Monument is out of the picture on the left. So this was a thriving community of 200 residents who were direct descendants of freed people of color and enslaved people of color. And Faisan let them live here so that they could enjoy their life and be free. How you like that? What a man. Jean-Pierre Faisan. And if I said the name wrong, that's the first time I ever saw it in my life. And I'm from Louisiana. Went to school in Louisiana. Been coming to the lower ninth ward my whole life. Never heard of the man. And that's how history works. His story. This plot has to be over 40 acres of land. If only the grounds could talk, man. And this community was taken from the people who owned it so that a park could be set up. And y'all complain about the government. This is the first I ever heard of this. And I'm from here. British batteries. To support their attacks, the British built several artillery batteries. Shown in red on the map, the largest was an advanced battery with 10 cannons behind a low rampart of earth-filled sugar cask and rammed earth, built near the center of what is now the cemetery. It suffered heavy damage during the January 1st artillery duel and was abandoned. 2 batteries held Congreve rockets. The rockets were designed to shower shrapnel and explosive down on enemy troops when fired overhead, but they were difficult to aim, so were mostly ineffective. The forward battery became a redoubt, a defense structure to protect sentries. The bombs bursting in air sent a shower of shrapnel on troops below, as shown in this woodcut from the middle 1800s. I just ripped a chunk of meat out of that leg. These metal pedals ain't no joke. And this is the cemetery right here. Battlefield Cemetery. Roads and ditches. The battle took place on agricultural fields crisscrossed by drainage and irrigation ditches. British Commander Sir Edward Pakenham probably launched his main attack from behind the cover of the first ditch. Some troops advanced and later withdrew along the center road, a narrow dirt track that cut across the field toward the American rampart. The heaviest fighting was near the cypress swamp and the double ditch along its edge. After the battle, the first ditch became the line of truce, where the armies met for formal communications and to arrange burials. Traces of the road and ditches are still visible today. The drawing from 1844 portrays the battle's aftermath, when troops from both sides assisted the wounded. Such humanity. Chalmette National Cemetery. Chalmette National Cemetery was established in 1864 as a burial place for Union soldiers who died in the Gulf area during the Civil War. It also served as a site for reburials of soldiers from battlefield cemeteries in the region. This plot of ground was part of the battlefield during the Battle of New Orleans. Only 4 U.S. veterans of the War of 1812 are buried here. None of the British who died in the battle are buried in the cemetery. The National Park Service received stewardship of the cemetery in 1933. The peaceful aspect that so often envelops the cemetery provides a moment in which we, the living, may acknowledge the contribution of those who have fought to defend this country. Soldiers buried at Chalmette. Chalmette National Cemetery is part of a typical early land division in the area. The original entrance stood at the river end of the property. In 1867, more land was incorporated and the brick wall was completed in 1875. In 1910, more land was added to the opposite end, and a year later, the entering gates were moved to their present position. There are over 15,000 individuals buried in the 17-acre cemetery. Veterans of all major American wars and conflicts are buried. I can't see that. Let's see. Interred here. Of these 15,000, more than 6,700 are unknown. By 1945, all available burial sites were either occupied or reserved, and the cemetery was closed. It was reopened briefly in the 1960s for burial of Vietnam War veterans. and occasional funeral still occurs for those who have one of the few remaining reserved plots or for widows of veterans already in the cemetery. The Freedmen's Cemetery. Here lie the remains of ex-slaves. I'm going to read that again. The Freedmen's Cemetery. Here lie the remains of former enslaved people. The Freedmen's Cemetery was established by the Freedmen's Bureau in 1867. When the Bureau received permission to use 4 acres of the former battlefield as a civilian burial ground, the property reverted to other ownership when the Bureau was discontinued, and the cemetery gradually fell into ruins. Above all, ground traces disappeared before the end of the 19th century. The Freedmen's Cemetery. Here lie the remains of former enslaved men. The Freedmen's Cemetery was enslaved. Can't read, boy. The Freedmen's Cemetery. Here lie the remains of former slaves. The Freedmen's Cemetery was established by the Freedmen's Bureau in 1867. When the Bureau received permission to use 4 acres of the former battlefield as a civilian burial ground, the property reverted to other ownership when the Bureau was discontinued, and the cemetery gradually fell into ruins. All above ground traces disappeared before the end of the 19th century. Yeah, that brings you back to the cemetery. Packingham's fall. As the attack began to fail, British Commander Sir Edward Pakenham rode forward to rally his troops. Under intense fire, both Pakenham and his horse were hit less than 40 yards from the American line. He quickly mounted an aide's horse, but was shot again, this time mortally wounded. Second in command Major General Sir Samuel Gibbs was also killed. Third in command Major General John Keane was severely wounded. Although some British soldiers advanced as far as the canal and rampart, the relentless American fire killed hundreds. To continue fighting was futile. The Battle of New Orleans was over. Pakenham's death is shown as a turning point in the battle in this Eugene Louis Lamy painting from about 1840. Pakenham's success during the Napoleonic Wars in Europe was rewarded with medals, honors, and the command of land forces against the United States. The main attack. At dawn, frontiersmen from the Tennessee and Kentucky militia stood ready on the American lines, swamping. British Commander Sir Edward Pakenham concentrated his main attack here under Major General Sir Samuel Gibbs. Expecting the American volunteers to perform poorly, Yet it was Pakenham's force that fared badly. Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Mullen sent the 44th to the wrong location to pick up the ladders and fascines needed to cross the canal and scale the rampart. When the British reached American rampart, they had no way to advance and were impeded by the disorganization 44th. Under heavy American fire, the attack disintegrated into chaos. The McCarty House, used as American headquarters, can be seen in the background of this 1845 magazine illustration by Robert Hinshelwood. I want to go to the little visitor center, but I think I'm done. And I might seem like a little crybaby, but how you doing? I might seem like a little crybaby. All the dead bodies that's in this earth, you know. And I'm talking about I'm done. They the ones that's done, you know. Pawsandplaynola. I gotta learn the right way to say it, but I really don't know how it's pronounced. Pawsandplaynola. So that will conclude the Chalmette Battlefield. I hope you're not depressed by this piece of history and all my bad reading. Whenever I read, I try to be accurate. I like to read accurately. And I don't like when I make mistakes, but I'm human. And most of the time I read one of these placards, it's the first time I've ever read it. So I don't know the words, I don't know all of the names, you know. I'm just reading it for the first time. Just like you might be seeing that placard for the first time. I'm reading it for the first time. When I was a firefighter, that sound, we had a sound like that on our air packs, SCBA, self-contained breathing apparatus packs. And even though that sounds more like a backup alarm now that I'm listening to, but it just triggered that moment of memory. Then at working school, and somebody let their pass device go off, and it's like, fix it! Give me push-ups, 20 push-ups, you know? If it wasn't fixed within a expedited amount of time. So I'm gonna end this video so I can think, you know? And I kind of need to spend some time with myself for a few minutes. Thanks for watching.